going on, everybody? So I am back with a different video. I know it's been some time, but I am here to show you guys how I made my wedding invitations. I DIY'd them myself. So if you want to do beautiful wedding invitations on a budget, please stay tuned. Okay, so first I'm going to start off with the supplies that you will need, and I will try to keep up with the pricing. I'll put everything on the screen, and I also will link everything down below. So just to give you guys a little bit of background, I not recently, I feel like it's been almost a year now, or about to be a year. So I got engaged the beginning of 2023, January, and I hit the ground running because I knew I wanted to get married a year out, but I had no idea about getting married, what it meant to plan a wedding. I priced everything out, and when I did, I realized, okay, this is going to be extremely expensive. And I knew what I wanted for my wedding invitations. I was going back and forth between wanting something like, you know, elegant, but still very simple, because that's kind of like my style. Or I wanted something that was like overly elevated. And one of those options were acrylic invitations. And after seeing the price, I'm just like, ridiculous. Now, I know a lot of people would say, do not do paper invitations. If you don't care that much, then yes. But for me, I actually wanted to. I'm like, I just want to experience everything. I want to have actual paper invitations. But I feel like I can still achieve what I want on a budget, and that's what I did. So the first thing that you will need is, for this type of invitation in particular, you will need some baby's breath. Get it from Trader Joe's if you have a Trader Joe's by you, or just like a grocery store that you know that always carries baby's breath. And I'm going to tell you guys a tip on how to keep them well, not really alive, but how to basically preserve them, in a sense, for your invitations. I know a lot of people feel a way about using real flowers, and like, it can be a little expensive, and I will tell you about that in just a minute. You need a glue gun. I would say get one that you know is going to be good for like wax seals, because you don't want something that's like overly hot or that's not hot enough. Next is double-sided tape, ribbon of your choice, the actual wax for the wax seals, and you want a stamp with your initial on it, or just like a beautiful stamp of your choice. You need some cardstock, 2 sizes. You need one for your RSVP cards, and you also want one for your invitations. You can use whatever thickness of, you know, paper that you want to use. It's your preference. Me personally, I was trying to save some money, so yeah. Parchment paper. So this is the clear, like, you know, transparent, like aesthetic paper that all the girls use, whether you're using it for crafting or for wedding invitations. This is the brand that I got. I'm showing you everything that I actually use. And you're going to need something to cut your invitations. Now, I will say, if you can get the really big one with the handle, I would recommend that. You can do a lot more cutting. It's not as tedious, but this will work as well if you do have to use it. I did it, and it worked for me. So the first thing that I want to discuss before we get into how to assemble or how everything will look, obviously you're going to need a printer. Having a printer at home will be extremely helpful and convenient in this process, because then you don't have to worry about paying to get it printed somewhere else. So yes, make sure you have a printer. Get your ink. The printer that I use, I will put it on the screen. I've had this printer for years. I didn't just go out and buy a printer. So yeah, but if you have a family friend, somebody that has a printer, be like, hey, can I use your printer real quick? Just saying. Okay, so I'm going to look over here because I have my notes. So I want to tell you guys, the first step into DIYing your invitations is you want to figure out your price range. That's really important, because you want to know how much am I willing to spend. Next is research some examples. I use TikTok a lot, and TikTok actually helped me out because a lot of these girls had it linked in their bio. They created like a whole list. So I was able to kind of like create an Amazon list for myself, and then just kind of save those things to the Amazon list so I can go back and kind of compare and decide like, okay, is this going to be right for me? The next step is choose a template. Now, you can do this completely free. Use Canva. I love Canva. I have used Canva for years. Canva is a really, really good place to do a lot of DIYing, especially wedding invitations. You may find a template up there to have amazing, beautiful templates, even for the version that you have to pay for. If you never use Canva, use the free trial and girl, print out your invitations. Let me tell you, Canva will print them for you, but we're trying to do this on a budget. We're trying to do this ourselves. So use Canva first to find your template if you can, but if you're not satisfied with Canva, you can also choose Etsy. Etsy is great, which is where I chose my template, and this is the person that I chose, and I just love this template. It just was what I was looking for. And then the next thing is you want to use Amazon, local shops and everywhere to buy your products. It's a lot easier to go back and forth when you need to re-up on a lot of different things, because I feel like a lot of times when you're trying to get things super exclusive, you can kind of run into an issue with that. So you want to try to utilize like the places around you, and then obviously branch off to like Amazon and places like that. Michael's, like your local craft stores. A lot of times they end up having a lot of sales. Hobby Lobby and Michael's in particular. And then you just get to designing. So assuming that you have ordered all of these things already, you get right into it. So, okay, as you've seen, you have all of your things ready and prepared. So now it's time to assemble so you can see what these products will look like once they're all together. All right, so first I want to tell you guys how to preserve your baby's breath. I don't know if this will work for all types of flowers. I will tell you, I ordered this off of Amazon first. It was a recommendation from one of the girls that I watched on TikTok that did her wedding invitations. And although I'm sure that it worked for her, obviously it just did not work for me. The quality of them, they started falling apart, and it was going to become very expensive for me to apply them to all of my invitations. And I kept hearing a lot of people say, go to Trader Joe's. Go to Trader Joe's to get your flowers. It's a lot cheaper, and it really, really is. You get a lot for a little. Trust me. So the thing that you want to do is get 2 paper towels. Obviously, you're probably going to need multiple. Get you a nice sturdy book. And what you do is you put 1 paper towel on each opposite side, and then you stick your flowers in between. You cut them off of the stems, and then you stick them in here like so, and you close it up. And obviously if it's a heavy book, you can put something heavy on top of it, let it sit for about 5 days, and this is what you get. Basically, you get the same exact thing that you would if you were buying them from Amazon, which is what I originally did. But this actually worked a lot better for me. I was able to get a lot more out of just this bundle that I bought. So just FYI, if you're wondering how you can do that, super easy. It did not take long. 5 days is really all you need to dry out the flowers. And then, yeah, you just place them in between paper towels, and that's it. Now to the fun part. First is doing your wax seals. Now, I thought that you could just, pour it up there once you have everything assembled and stamp it. It was a mess. So that's where the parchment paper comes. So I forgot to mention that there are 3 ways that you can do this, because I ended up doing it a different way after this. Okay, so you can pre-do them like I have shown, or you can put your parchment paper down and put your flower down, pour some wax over it, and then stamp it. Or you can pre-do your wax stamps, put a little bit of wax on the back of it, and then stick your flower to it. I found that after the fact, adding the flower to it and then pouring the wax over it kind of helped me get more of a unified look. I didn't have to deal with the flower moving when I did press it down on the ribbon on the invitation. Comes in, and you just create multiple wax seals for your invitations. Now, I will say you can buy them like this already done, but the whole point of this is for us to do it ourselves to save some money. So yes, I would recommend just doing a lot of these beforehand on parchment paper. They do recommend when you're using the wax seals to have it on ice in between each stamp so it doesn't stick to the wax. So just FYI, put them in a little sandwich bag to keep them safe so they don't get all banged up. And then that's pretty much it. So moving on to our RSVP cards. All right, so this is how mine look. I will have a close-up if you guys cannot see it, but this is what I chose. I wanted to have an option for some of my older guests that may not feel comfortable or really know how to utilize the wedding website, but I did want to give those that wanted to that option as well. This can be a little bit of a headache, I will say, when you do have to put the food and everything. Most RSVP cards are like, here's a QR code, go to our wedding website. But because I do have people on our list that may not be able to do that, I did want to accommodate them. And then also, I didn't want to run into an issue where the wedding website just wasn't working and now people can't properly RSVP. That was going to be a nightmare. So it just says kindly RSVP, and this came along with my template that I purchased. I did edit it completely. So, I mean, but that's the joy of it. Like, you may find a template that you love the invitation part, but you may not love the RSVP, and you may not necessarily need how it's set up, so you can change it. So just food for thought. But yeah, so that's basically what I ended up doing on my RSVP portion. Now, this one is edited because I do have the QR code in the corner on my final product. And then I have my wedding website on a whole separate card. So that's actually not up here, but I just wanted to do it like this. And what I decided to do is put each person's name on it. Now, if you don't care about who people bring, how it's set up, whatever, you don't really care. You're just waiting to get their RSVP to see. If you do give them a +1, then that is fine. We chose to fill out the RSVP cards completely and let people know whether they have a +1 or not and who that +1 is. Everyone already told us prior to who their +1 was going to be if they had one. So that's why we were able to do it like this. And it just kind of made it easier for our guests. So we just basically put that we have 2 seats reserved or 1 seat. And after you print it out, you can just use a black pen and just put 1 or 2 in that blank spot. And then we just put the food down here and let them initial, and that's it. And they can basically just mail this out, put it in an envelope, and that's it. I wanted to add a little bit of texture to my cards. So I chose this like ripped kind of like paper that I got from Amazon. I love this. There are tools where you can just buy like a big sheet of this, and basically just cut it yourself. It's like, it looks like a ruler and has like ridges on it, and you just like line it up with the paper. But I did purchase mine's already done like this, and my printer didn't have any problem printing on this. So you probably would want to do like a test, but yeah. So anyway, let's get to it. Okay, so the details card, I basically wanted to explain that we're going to have a cocktail hour, a reception, and the attire. We had a lot of people ask us because of the type of wedding that we're having. We're not having a wedding party, and a lot of people were like, okay, so what are the colors? Like, we may want to come dressed in y'all's colors. So that way we didn't have to deal with a whole bunch of text messages of like, hey, this is the colors, and trying to explain to people like what we mean. We basically just put that on the details card, because I know a lot of people sometimes don't understand, like when you're saying like neutral, earthy, you know, kind of like nude tones. They're like, okay, I guess I get it, you know. So just to kind of help people out a little bit, but then also with telling them that we're having a cocktail and reception hour, that will also let people know that right after the ceremony there is something else, because a lot of times you're thinking, okay, what am I going to do to kill time? So we wanted to let people know, like, hey, these are the details of our wedding. This is not necessary, this is extra, but it didn't cost me that much to make, which is why I did it. So, and I'm like, it adds a little bit of texture, makes me look like I paid a lot of money for these. I did not. Moving along to your invitations. The joy about this is you can print 2 per sheet. This is the paper, the other cardstock that I showed you guys at the beginning. I got that cardstock from Target. It is a good thickness for me. I just basically followed the template that I used, and basically all I did was just cut it to the size that I wanted. And then once you do that, this is how it ends up looking. So this is the size that I used. I basically sized it where it would fit in my envelopes. So it depends on the size of envelopes that you have, will depend on the size that you will end up printing, whether you can do 2 to a page. It just depends on you. It depends on your printer. All of these things matter, but this is the final size that I chose on because it fit in my envelope. Next is assembling everything. So I had to trim the paper. The transparent paper was easy to cut, easy to manipulate. It just elevated it. You can stop right here if you want, to be honest. You don't have to go any further than this. This is still very, very pretty within itself. And then the inside, I basically just have my details card. Well, the RSVP card being here too, and the invitation. So yeah, so you just pretty much assemble everything, cut everything where it would fit in the inside, and then that's when you would get your ribbon, wrap your ribbon around, and this is what it will look like when you are completely done, when you've added your flowers, your wax seal, your ribbon. Can y'all see that? How pretty is that, y'all? And it looks like you spent a lot of money. And you didn't. Like, I love that. Like, people are gonna be like, oh, this is so nice. Oh, thanks, I did it myself. Like, people aren't gonna believe you. They're gonna be like, how did you do this yourself? Like, now let me get to the envelopes and we're going to discuss price. Okay. This is where you might be a little like, ah. So these are the envelopes. Very simple. Nothing major. How I addressed them was just putting me and Deontay's name at the top and then our address. And then I just put the person's name. This is not a finished one, but just to give you guys an example, I just basically put the person's name and then you end up following up with their address and so on and so on and so on. Okay. Let's get into cost. I would recommend, which is currently what we are doing, is going to the USPS store and basically taking a example of the finished assembled product. Take it to them, weigh it, and then ask them, okay, what are the different ways that I can mail this out, considering like stamps? What type of stamps do I need to use to ship this weight of an invitation, and how will it be mailed out? Apparently there is different ways that you can like mail stuff out. I think it's only like 2 ways, if I'm not mistaken. You can choose to have it be hand sorted. A lot of people choose to do this when they have a wax seal. If you are deciding to put your wax seal on the outside of it, be prepared for it to get destroyed. I have seen a lot of horror stories of people's invitations just being ripped up because of the wax seal, because when it feeds through the machine that they do to sort the mail, obviously it's like a bump. It's not like a flat, surface. So it picks this up and it's like trying to roll over it. A disaster. But because it is in the inside and it's not extremely flat, you could still have issues with that. So I would recommend asking them, okay, well, if it's hand sorted, that won't cause an issue with this getting messed up in the inside, correct? And then that's when you ask them, what kind of stamp do you need to mail this? Now, I do have a weight or a scale here, because I ship a lot of stuff for my business. So I was able to weigh them. Now, I will say once you add a wax seal and you add ribbon and stuff to it, it does make your invitations a little bit heavier. So keep that in mind where you're thinking of different things to add to your invitation. That does change the cost per invitation to mail it out. So just FYI, I'm just telling y'all that right now. So I know some people will probably like, all right, I'll just skip on the wax seal and then just add the ribbon or whatever. But obviously the more heavier cardstock that you have, like all of that plays a part in like how heavy your invitation is. But yes, like I said, this is the finished product. You just put it in there and then you just mail it. But I really, really wanted to share this because throughout my journey of planning my own wedding, it can be a headache and it can almost like make you super emotional, not in like a positive way, because you just feel so defeated because you see all of these nice things. And I know some people are probably thinking, I'm not a DIY girl. I can't do nothing DIY and this is not going to work for me. And I promise you, you can do this. It is not difficult. Yes, I do like to DIY, but I've never done wedding invitations myself. This is not my lane at all. So if I can do it, you can do it. Trust me, it's super easy. And I feel like being hands-on with your own stuff, it definitely changes your perspective throughout this whole entire process. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.